At long last, the sun has actually come out. It's coming out and going in, coming out and going in, but at least the temperature has gone up. Oh, it's so nice out here. Not even freezing, not cold. I saw where old 64 Goat said that he wasn't going to go out and do any work in 25-degree weather. My God, that's like a blizzard to me. All right, let's go in here.
Will this T-Bird series ever end?
In the last video, I think it was the mishmash video I did, I told you that, the next video would be the Thunderbird, which we are now on, and I also told you that we had some packages that came in, and we needed to open them up. So let's start with the top and work to the bottom. Well, the first one was wrapped in newspaper, very well packed, by the way, from Temecula, I think it's called. Wrapped in newspaper called My Valley or Valley News. MyValleyNews.com is the website, but it's Temecula, California. So let's see if they did a good job of packing. Let's see what it looks like. It is my new double flaring toolkit, Craftsman. This is much better than that thing I bought at O'Reilly. This is quality stuff. Yeah, it cost me a little more, but it always goes back to the old saying. You get what you pay for. Okay, now we have, let's see what we got here. We've got a really nice set. Boy, these things are nice. And this thing here, I don't know if you recall in the last video I told you that they used a wrench to, with a kind of a nut to tighten these things together. And I told you the ones that were the best would have this like a large wing nut, and that's what this is. You'll recall in the last video I took off the inner and outer tie rod, and I disconnected the entire thing off the what do you call it? I always call it the center link, the drag link, off the drag link, and along with the sleeve. And I said that they were in pretty bad shape. One of them just turns real easy, and I was going to have to get one and probably the other. Well, I talked to Brendan about this, and he came up with something a lot cheaper and just as good. I mean, all he does is eat bonbons and get on the internet all day and watch his 4K TV. I keep repeating that. He comes in handy every so often, okay? Brendan being my mentor in many ways. Well, what we now have is a complete set of brand new stuff. Brand new stuff. We've got the inner and outer with the rubber cups and everything, to include the sleeves. And as you'll notice, there's two sleeves in there because we have both sets for both sides of the car. All right, these came from Anderson Restorations out in Utah, and it was an eBay bought item. Very fast delivery, both on the Craftsman double flaring tool and the Anderson inner and outer tie rods plus adjustment sleeves. I'm real happy to have these. I won't have to buy them for the other side when we get there. And we're getting there. We'll be getting there much closer now that the temperature has finally decided to stop being cold. The temps will be going up from here on out. Nothing fantastic, but it'll be in the upper 50s, middle to upper 50s. I can live with that, okay? I just don't want to be laying on the concrete when it's 40 degrees. All right, let's find out what this one is. Well, it's our little power booster that's been rebuilt by Power Brake Booster Exchange up in Portland, Oregon. And they even sent me a little package of they call it booster nuts. Little package of candy to come back with it. Now that's a nice touch. I like that. They did an outstanding job. It looks like. I know one thing. They did the turnaround in 3 weeks, which I thought it was going to take 4 to 5, if you'll recall. Let's get it out of there and check it all out. They were by the way, they were very cooperative people, easy to talk to. I'm trying to remember the name of the lady, and I just can't remember. Maybe it'll be in here somewhere. The one that answers the phone. She knew what she was talking about, and I like that. Let's get it out. Well, there she be. They've got a cover on the front end here. I'm going to leave that on there. I'll take that off when the time comes. I don't want to have any damage to any of this thing. And this here, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that, man, that is really nice. They sandblasted this thing. This was the original one, I think. They sandblasted, put me a new grease cap on it. Oh, man, that looks good. That is a good job. It sure looks good anyway. They guaranteed, it's warranted for, let me see how long this is warranted for. 2-year warranty on booster only. It's voided if you mess with it. So, or if it becomes fluid contaminated in some way that you screwed it up. That looks nice. I requested that it be painted, and they did. This is one thing I'm concerned about. Okay, look at there. Look at that. You can't even move that thing, which is the way it's supposed to be. That's where the vacuum hooks up. The other one was going around and around, allowing vacuum to escape. Very good job. I recommend those people. To tell you the truth, I recommend them just by the way they talked to me and treated me on the phone. That lady that answered, I can't remember her name. I wish I could. I feel embarrassed about that. Again, it's Power Brake Booster Exchange Incorporated. They only charged me $175 to do that. I thought that was, let me see, was it $170? Yeah, $175, plus they charged $25 to ship it. So $200 total. Well worth it in my mind. Now, while they were doing this to my booster, by the way, these things are very rare for the 66 Thunderbird. Don't throw them away. While they were doing that, I was taking... I took the bracket that this thing attaches to the firewall and then goes all the way through to the brake pedal, and I was cleaning it up, de-rusting it, and getting it all painted. So we're going to have a couple of nice little setups there. So
you done good.
Fun. By the way, this is Booster Steve. He's the one that runs that outfit up there in Portland, and you can get all kinds of things done to your boosters. You can get them, you can zinc plate them. You can have them painted semi-gloss black paint, all kinds of stuff. They offer all sorts of things, and their prices are very reasonable. So if you've got a T-Bird or any other kind of car that has a booster on it that needs to be, you know, just they don't do strictly Thunderbird. They do everything. So old, they have a nice stock of old boosters that they've kept. They said the biggest problem, or at least someone I spoke with, said the biggest problem is when they junked a lot of these cars, they would take them to the junkyard and they would never take boosters off and things like that. And the boosters and all that wound up being crushed and smashed along with the rest of the car in the crusher. So they began to disappear and disappear and disappear. And the only ones that are left are maybe some that a person had stashed away on an old shelf somewhere in their old garage, and those that are currently on the cars that are still surviving. But other than that, thousands and thousands of them have disappeared, so they're highly valuable. Don't toss them away. Try not to ruin them. That was one of the reasons I wanted them to go ahead and do this job for me. I wanted it done professionally. You know, we're dealing with brakes here on a car that weighs over 2 tons. I keep talking about that. You know, I don't want to kill somebody because I didn't do the brake booster correctly. Thinking I did, yes, but it's okay if I kill myself because I'm stupid. I just don't want to kill anyone else, all right? I recommend you do the same. I don't know what I'm going to do with these booster nuts. I thought that was, unless it actually is the booster nuts. I don't think so, though. It looks like little candies. I'm going to have to open that up and find out. Well, it wasn't booster nuts. It was actually candy, and I'm hungry. Well, I'm going to eat a couple of them. They're peanuts. That was a great touch. I like that. All right, moving right along. Oh, I haven't done long. Moving right along. All right, let's crank her up here. This is the type of flare we're looking for. Let me do a little, I want to do a little close. I want everybody to see it. Now, this came off of another line, of course. You see how nice that looks all the way around? Don't worry about the bent line. I'm looking at the flare on the end. See, it's nice and even all the way around. All looks the same. Tapered on in there all the way around. Well, what we got last time, using that cheap piece of crap we got at O'Reilly's, and I don't blame O'Reilly's. You know, it's not their fault what's sold in the stores. Whoever's buying those things, that's the guy whose fault it is. But this one here, you see how it's all angled over when I tried to flare it down? We were beginning to get the right kind of flare on the inside. But then I turned it around, tried the other end, got the same exact thing. See, that looks terrible. And it wasn't anything I did. I mean, I followed the rules right to the, to the letter. But I know what caused this. So we're going to take this brand new piece of copper that I cut off that coil, or this nickel copper brake line. We're going to go ahead and we're going to double flare this one. Again, we're using 3/16 tubing, brake line tubing. And you'll notice that one side of this bar, this clamp bar, all the holes are beveled down in, okay? But we ran it through from this side to the other side to where the holes are not beveled, they're flat. See how they're nice and flat, no beveling at all? And we're sticking the tube out, getting it ready to flare. Now here's where the problem was with the last one. This is the little tool we'll be using to do the flaring. I don't even know what they call this thing, just the insert, I guess. The last one, the thickness was, they said you're supposed to put it through the hole until it meets the thickness of the base of this thing. Well, this one here has a step down, if you'll notice. See how the step down right there? It steps down. It goes from very large to smaller. Well, the other one wasn't like that. It was one solid distance from the bottom all the way up to the top of that insert, right, which would be right here. It was one, and what happened was that was too long. So what was that? Where's the tube? What did I do with it? Right here. And when it got to the point where it couldn't be flared anymore, it began to squish over. That's what happened. This one here, we're not going to have that problem. At least I don't think so, because it's only half. Let me get down there. It's only half that distance. The other one was from here to here. This one was only half that distance, and we're going to be setting that tube right about where it meets that thing right there. But first, we're going to file it down flat. So it's clamped in there nice and tight. I'm going to take the old file. I'm going to file back and forth across it, and being very careful. I don't want to, tear up the chrome here, but it's not that big a deal. Even if I did, I'm more interested in a good, solid, functional brake line than I am a few scratches on a chrome tool. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and file that down until it's nice and flat. All right, there she is, nice and flat. That's what we want. Yeah, we got a few scratches on there, but you don't want to be filing, putting down 45 pounds per square inch pressure on it when you file it. Just file it gently. You're going to have a few scratches on your tool, but who cares? Anyway, that's nice and flat across there. Now I'm going to take my knife before I take it out of the clamp, and I'm going to go ahead and ream out the burr on the inside of the hole. Try to get all that out as I can, then blow it out the bottom. Then when we take the tube out of the clamp, we're going to take the file again. We're going to file around the outside edge and get rid of those burrs, because as I was going back and forth with the file, it created burrs on the outside edge as well. Alright, I've got it stuck through there and clamped down, and I set it to the first step. You want to get it as very close as you can. When it comes to brake lines, good enough is not good enough. Okay, get it as very close as you can with anything to do with the brake lines, anything. Now this tool has angular, the way it's done with the Craftsman, this tool has angular slots in it. See how they angle down like a little chute? And the purpose of that is when you put it on this bar and line it up with this black thing, I just set this 3/16. It's a 3/16. It goes in the center like so. And it has a hole down in the middle where this point will fit. This point will fit down there. And when this thing mounts on the bar, it mounts at an angle. It doesn't mount straight, perpendicular. It mounts at an angle. And these flat spots here, they'll fit up against the sides of the bar. The one thing I plan to do this time that I did not do last time, which was my bad, I'm not sure if it made much difference. I'm going to take a little bit of brake fluid. Don't use anything but brake fluid. Take a little bit of brake fluid. I'm going to use that as a lubricant on here. You're going to be putting brake fluid through the line anyway, so it won't make any difference, even if you don't get a lot of it off. It doesn't take a whole lot. I need a little bit more than that. This bottle's about empty, I guess. We'll go ahead and lubricate around there like that. Okay, now let's set it up. I'll tell you what, since I'm so dumb, I'll go ahead and stick a little bit around there too. We'll just go ahead and let it. You don't need a ton of it, but a little bit around this thing's got a hollow spot down in there where that line fits up in. You can see the highlighted circle there. Okay. Well, there she is at an angle, like I said, with those angular flat spots pressed up against the side of the tool. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead, and all I have to do now is tighten this bar down. I'll make sure that the tube, the the tube, the brake line is tight by tightening this, and I'll tighten. This is actually usually held in a vise, which makes it easier to do, but you know, I'm not going to do the vise bit. I'm trying to do it in the light where everybody can see, and I'll tighten up this end both here, this end and that end, and then we'll come back and we'll start twisting on this baby right here. One last thing, before you begin twisting on this thing up here, this bar, which will drive the flaring tool down against this, make sure it is straight. You don't want it, you know, you don't want this thing off at an angle. You don't want this thing slightly askew. Make sure it's nice and straight. So when you get that flare going, it goes straight down in. You don't want anything crooked, okay? Again, you have to take your time and do it right. Well, let me see what I can do. I'm just going to start squishing this thing down until this black thing meets the bottom of the black thing meets the chrome. She's now been completely pushed down, and I've got her flush with that right there. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to go that far down or not, but we're fixing to find out. Now I need to release this thing, remove the black thing, and then put the point back down into the center hole on the tube, and do the same thing again. Alright, the first part, I just removed that black thing. It appears to be off center just a little bit. I don't know if that's going to make a difference or not. I hope not. Just slightly off center. What is it, about a 64th of an inch, maybe less? We'll see. Now for the second part. Alright, here goes. Well, it looks like it's going to be okay. I haven't taken it out yet. I just went ahead and forced it on down. I put a little more oil on there, by the way, too. I put it on the tip here and there. Yeah, this is a slow, tedious job, but, you know, after I've done a few, and you've done a few, it'll be a whole lot easier to do, and I'll be using the vise next time. So I hope I've got that down far enough. We're going to find out. Well, guess what? I've got the exact same problem I had before. Can you believe this? It's flaring it off to one side, so that has to be something that I'm doing wrong, or this particular kind of tubing just does not want to cooperate. I mean, how could I have three of them the same way?
What would Ron C. do? And then do the opposite.
Since I'm using steel tubing this time, I go ahead and I'll put it in the vise. And it's already been cut. It's already been filed flat, and this, you know, the burrs have been removed. And I've got the oil in it, and it's set at the proper height. So I'm going to go ahead and scrunch it on down. It may take both hands. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, we have our bubble. Let's see if we can create the double flare now. You don't need to go crazy on it. Just get it on down there till we've got it pretty good snug. That's about it.
I don't know,
That's what it's supposed to do.
I don't know.
All right. Well, looks a little better than the other ones did, although it's probably still going to be a little crooked. Well, it's a little bit better than the other ones were.
Pitiful, John.
But it's still
pitiful.
not the way it's supposed to be. That coating on the outside of the tube kind of screwed things up too. I didn't like that. It's not too bad. Although it's still a little off to the side. See it? Well, we're not about to give up yet. No, we're not. I've got an actual piece of raw steel with no coating on the outside. Came off the Thunderbird. I'm not sure exactly where, but we're not going to use it again. But it'll make a great flaring, a last shot experiment. There's no coating on the outside, no copper coating, no anything. And I've already flattened out the top. I cut it off, flattened out the top. We're going to go ahead and stick it in and see what kind of flare we get with that one. We'll put the oil on, you know, the brake fluid on, and we'll see what happens. All right, win, lose, or draw. This is going to wrap up the video. I'm not going to keep going on and on here, you know, droning on. I'm going to take it all the way down. It's a little bit harder to do than the other steel stuff. I think part of the problem has been when I remove this first part and then set the flaring tool back up and do the second flaring, I think I've been maybe tightening it down too tight. So we're just going to kind of go Just about right there. I didn't go crazy. I snugged it on down, snug, 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 and that was good enough. I didn't do the gorilla act. Let's see what I got. Well, it's looking a whole lot better. That's, you know, I didn't put a whole lot of pressure. Let's open it up. Well, what do you think? Is that a nice looking flare or not? I think I solved the problem. I was putting too much pressure on the second flaring. But that's why we practice it before we do it. Practice, 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 practice. Hopefully it'll make perfect. Well, now that we've had a certain degree of success, I'm going to try to duplicate it over the next day or two. I'm going to use the copper line or the copper nickel line and see if I can do the same thing. And the reason I need to get that done, I need to have some kind of line done, even if I have to go back downtown and buy another steel. Because this line right here, which comes up to the master cylinder, the end of it is right here. I had to break it off because it was so rusty, it wouldn't even, it just wouldn't even come out of the master cylinder. And this one, it goes over and it goes down to the wheel on the other side of the car. And of course I had to loosen it up from the firewall. It was attached down here. There's a bracket down there that is used for the throttle linkage, and they have a little thing right there where the brake line fit behind it like so. So I had to loosen it up. That's a 3/8 bolt. I got it loose. I want to take this line all the way loose from the other side of the car, and I'm going to make sure I got plenty of extra on this end. And once I flare one end, hopefully successfully, I want to bring it up across, fasten it to the firewall, and give myself plenty of extra here. As a matter of fact, I may even put a coil around like that. I've seen several coils, and that way you don't wind up with a brake line that's too short because you keep screwing up the flared ends, all right? Now the other end of that brake line comes down here on the other side of the car. And check this out. It's not even fastened to the bracket. Isn't that fun, huh? Look at that. Look at this thing over here. We can see it a little bit better. Check this out. Well, that's not good. I'm going to get that off of there. Well, there's that line that runs from one side of the car to the other. That's a big long sucker, isn't it? Anyway, it's out. I had to cut it. It was just so rusty on the other end where it went into that flexible hose. There was no way it was going to come out. So I cut up close to the hose and took it out. It's got to go. It's just nothing but rust. And since we're on a roll, I mean, why not just keep going here? I decided I've got to order one of these. Let me get this back up where I had it. These rubber shock, they go on the top of the shocks. It's a piece of rubber. It's pretty thick. Some kind of a mount of some kind, but I don't know what's underneath it. I got to order one of these. I can buy these. So the top of the shock, if you'll look, has a flat spot on the top. All shocks do that have this style of top. And you go ahead and put your vice grips on there. I have a small pair here, as you can see. They're not a large pair. You hold it in place. Then you take your old, because if you don't, what happens is when you start to spin this thing, this is a 9/16. When you start to spin this thing, the whole shock turns, the whole shaft in the shock. So what you have to do is hold it with one hand with a small pair of vice grips. Try not to use pliers, or if you have a nice little wrench, it'll work. That'll work good. I always like to use a small vice grips to hold it, you know, because if you use pliers, you're going to wind up rounding that thing off. And then while you're holding it, you just go ahead and unloosen it with your wrench. So I want to see what this thing looks like, because in a couple of days I'm going to be putting in an order here for, you know, several small things. This is going to be one of them. Alright, let's see what happens now. The reason I'm taking this off and I don't know what it looks like is because the one on the other side was missing. It wasn't even there because the shock was broken. So we're going to find out if there's anything that goes up underneath this thing. Let me study it for a minute. Alright, what we have here is a thick metal washer that's molded into the rubber. That's a really thick washer, metal. And it just sits right down. The bottom is round, just round rubber. Just a rubber molded piece of stuff, that's all. It's flexible. squeezes in, and it goes down into the hole around the top of that shock. Just sits right in there. So I think what I'm going to do right now is I'll just put the nut back on the shock, and then I'm going to take these three other nuts off and remove that, because it's going to have to be cleaned and painted and all that other stuff. Let's do that. Alright, we'll go ahead and put the nuts back on. Look here, the mud wasps up the wazoo here. They're just everywhere. The bottom of this thing is even covered with them. Nothing but mud wasps. Oh my gosh, this car is something else, huh? We'll get rid of those. Anyway, there's our shock top. Pretty sturdy, really. I'm amazed that the other one was broken like it was. I don't know what could have caused that. Anyway, we'll go ahead and clean this all up, and I think next time, what are we going to do next time? You know something, I haven't got the foggiest idea. By the way, they only had two lock washers holding these things on. They're flattened out completely. New lock washers will be in order, maybe even new nuts. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I have a request of some of you, all of our 64, 65, and 66 Thunderbird owners. I want to do a video. Let me hang this up here. I want to do a video that kind of highlights your cars. You know, show us your car. You know, maybe a photograph of you standing next to your car at kind of an angle like this. Don't worry about the condition of your car. I'm not worried about that. You know, we're not going to do a car show here where everything is chromed up. And no, let's see what your car looks like. You know, you all know what mine looks like. You've seen it from the very beginning. You can take it, you know, lit up. Make sure it's lit up so we can see. If there's anything else you want to include also, you can do that. Maybe a couple of photos of each, 3 at the most, if you don't mind, just 3. Tell us your name, you know, your first name. I'm Bill. I'm from, San Diego, California, and this is my 66. And I bought it 10 years ago from a guy that didn't know what he had. Okay, I don't know, whatever you think, and just maybe a 1-paragraph deal. And I can read, just send it to my email address. It's which is my YouTube handle at gmail.com. Okay, and then I'll read the portion that you gave me. If it's too long, I'll edit it down a little bit. Just write what you want, and I'll just say this is Bill's car from San Diego, and he got it from his grandpa or whatever the case may be. He's had it for 12 years, and he's slowly but surely working on it. Whatever, okay? If it's a great looking car, let's see it. If it's a car in the works like mine is, let's see it. If it's a car that's nothing but a heap of rust, and it's your dream to someday restore it, let's see it. Okay, don't worry about it. I'll do a complete video on that. It'll be kind of nice. The more the merrier. 64, 65, and 66. Give us a shot of the interior. Let's see what it looks like. Is your engine? Have you worked on the engine at all? Let's see. Let's see what's happened. If you haven't done any work on it at all, it doesn't matter. It's been sitting in my garage for 12 years, and I haven't had the money or the time to work on it. I figured I'd do it when I was retired. Anything like that. Anything at all. There won't be any criticism. I'd kind of like to see some of y'all's cars, and the picture of you standing maybe at an angle like this. Okay, it'd be kind of nice. Make sure it's nice and clear. You want to show everybody who you are and what you have. That sort of thing. So if you don't mind, send them to me. I will try to I'll give you till the 15th of March. Gives you plenty of time. And I'll put together the video, and we'll see what we can do. It'll be kind of fun to see some of our subscribers, the cars they may have. 64, 65, and 66. Meanwhile, I'm going to keep working on this. So I guess that's about it for now. I know there was one other thing I wanted to cover. Oh, yeah, one more. Okay. This thing sits on top of that I just showed you. Now, is there a rounded piece that sits on top of this, that covers it, that fits up inside this hood? See this hood over here? Is there a rounded piece that fits up inside of here that sits down on top of that piece over there? I need to know. If it is it only on the 64? Maybe only on the 65? Is it only on the 66? I don't know. That side was missing the rounded thing up inside, if it's supposed to be there, and so was this side here. So I don't know. So anything you can help me with, I'd appreciate it on that. So get the pictures to me by the 15th of March. let's put on a good show here. You know, like I said, we're not here to criticize your car or you know whatever. If it's your car, it's your car, it's your business. So let's see what you got. Show us your stuff, and then anything you can help me with on that rubber. So that's it. Until next time. Again, this is John.
I'm glad that's over.